some of the larger ones.
So we have another question here. What do you recommend, or do you recommend using HTML5 boilerplate?
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually just watched. I mean, I've used it before, and I actually just last night watched Paul Irish's hour-long presentation on cool stuff in boilerplate. So again, I have a renewed excitement about it. There's a lot of cool stuff in it. So I mean, it's a great place to start. It really collects a lot of the best practices, sort of makes the hacks unnecessary with other hacks, which are, I think, less ugly. So I think, yeah, it's a great place to start, or at least read it or look at it or watch a presentation about it just to see what all goes into it. Because, Paul Irish obviously has a lot of experience with front-end development and best practices. So even looking at the source code for it and understanding what it does is a tremendously valuable experience of itself, even if you don't end up using it.
And I think at more of an abstract level, there's sometimes this notion that people will want to try to do everything from scratch, or they'll really take pride in that, and that's cool. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting out with code,
right.
To begin with, using things like CSS frameworks.
Exactly. Every project, you end up doing the same things. You try to make classes for IE. You try to do this, that, and the other thing. There's these weird quirks. Making sure the car set's in the first 512 for IE. There's all these little quirks that nobody can really be expected to remember every time they fire up an HTML page. So the HTML5 boilerplate makes for a good default. If you don't use that, at least have your own. Like, figure out what you do every time you start up a project and have that as your own personal boilerplate.
Wow, so we have another question here. What do you think about Adobe Wallaby? Have you tried it? Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I'd have to...
Me neither.
Is that a new code name for something?
You've stumped us.
Yes.
I have no idea.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
We will Google that.
I feel like I've heard about it.
Next question is, Nick, what's your race in StarCraft? I play Zerg, and right now I'm in the Gold League. I'm trying to get better. I practice a little bit every day, watch the GSL, so for those of you that have any idea what I'm talking about, awesome. Let's see, we got...
Wallaby is Adobe Flash HTML5 converter. Okay, I hadn't heard that code name for it before.
All right, well, thank you, Alan.
So I'm a little out of date on it. Thank you, Alan, for explaining that. I'm just going to bring it up. I haven't seen it recently, but I can only assume it's good. Adobe isn't stupid. I think they do some, as much as we like to hate on Flash, Adobe's full of really smart and talented engineers, so I feel like if anybody can turn Flash into HTML5 effectively, it's them. It's obviously their technology, so hopefully they're going to be doing it well. I haven't had a chance to actually convert anything, but I'd love to see how it evolves. And yeah.
What was that tool that we saw from a little while back that Adobe was working on to make HTML5 kind of function? Like they were building HTML5 tools.
Yeah, they were building. Yeah, I can't remember what that one was either. They're sort of an HTML5 IDE. Might have been within Dreamweaver, but it had another project code name. Again, there's a lot of stuff in their labs that I get confused about when they move around.
I think there's definitely a lot of innovation to be had in terms of building tools for HTML5 and CSS3. Right. And
it's really lacking right now, and I think we're going to see in the next year or two some really cool tools coming out to take advantage of new features in browsers.
So, just looking through the chat here, trying to find a few more good questions. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. You guys recently posted about your 4-day work week. Do you use your extra day off for keeping up to date with new technologies, personal projects, or just keep it lazy? I think
combination.
It's kind of a mix. It really depends on what kind of mood we're in. We all use it for different things.
Yeah. We try to use it as a day off. We count it as a weekend. Yeah. What's interesting about us is we do doctype.tv. And even before we were for Carsonified on a 4-day work week, it was something we did on the weekend pretty much.
Right.
So we sort of used that Friday as sort of our extra weekend day, so now we can do a doctype on Friday and have a real 2-day weekend. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and sometimes we just use it as a full 3-day weekend.
But yeah, I do research from time to time. I live and breathe the web. So,
right. Yeah, it's not like I make that my designated Friday, but what it does do is it makes the time when I'm learning stuff on the weekend. It's just there's that time, and then there's more relaxation and chill time. So yeah, it definitely allows just compressing the work into that allows us to do more sort of learning and experimenting on personal projects.
Yeah.
And still, in addition to that, have time for a normal, be lazy or go to the park type thing.
I think for me, going from a job where I had a 5-day work week to a job where I had a 4-day work week, it really wasn't about an extra day off. For me, it was really about changing the ratio of week to weekend. So you'd go from a 5-to-2 ratio to 4-to-3 ratio. And when you think about it that way, it's actually a huge difference. So I guess we're going to go ahead and move on. What's the one new web technology you're most excited about right now? Well, I don't know. For me,
web.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things changing with web standards right now, obviously, with HTML5 and CSS3. There's lots of innovation in just JavaScript in general.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably have to say CSS3, but it's a toss-up. I mean, just because I'm a designer.
Oh, come on, CSS3, that's covering everything.
Right.
For me, I think the sort of the most tangible technology I'm excited about is probably Canvas, and that sort of integrates into video and image processing along with that. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to be done. On the long term, I'm really excited about like some of the new stuff in ECMAScript 5 or the new JavaScript. But that's going to be so far out before we can really use it. But I've been watching some of the Harmony stuff and seeing how the new JavaScript's coming along. And it gets you really excited and then kind of really sad that you can't use it.
So here's a really cool question. What are your thoughts on personal marketing as designers and the value of knowledge sharing? Perhaps advice, tips, and experiences. So I think the best way to market yourself as a designer is, just to share your knowledge.
Yeah.
Same if you're a developer. I mean, if you're a developer, you can do an open source project. You can contribute to an existing open source project.
Definitely.
Right now I'm writing a couple of PDF books I'm working on. There's all sorts of things you can do, but I think the general motif there is sharing knowledge. That's one of the most powerful things you can do. It's something that actually Jason Fried from 37 Signals talks a lot about. He in his talks, he says that every company creates byproducts, and one of the biggest byproducts that every company creates and every individual creates is knowledge. And that's something that you can use as a marketing tool, or you can even package it up and sell it. So let's see here. Just looking at the chat here, a lot of good questions. If I wanted to learn about developing apps, what would be the best place to start, especially if I only have design experience? Gosh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's really daunting. I mean, that's something we try to address on Think Vitamin membership and even more in the future as we're developing new things, is to try to give you sort of a roadmap to go down, because there's, especially going in development, there's just so many choices to make before you even know what's going on. Do you want to do PHP, or do you want to do Ruby or Python or something else? There's so many choices, and you don't even know why. You don't have the skills or the experience to make that choice, so it can be really hard to start out. Talking to developers, if you're going to have people around you being your mentors, sort of using the technologies they use can be a good way to go. That way you can get a lot of help. If you have a team, obviously work on what they're working on. But it really depends. The first step is sort of figuring out a technology you want to use, and that's something you sort of have to dive into and find people who can advise you and help you along the way.
Definitely. So, I have another question here. I am looking into signing up for a Think Vitamin membership. What master classes will you have coming up or planning? So I just finished up the CSS3 masterclass. We released that a couple weeks ago, and Jim is going to be doing a masterclass on HTML5.
Yep, it's going to be a HTML5 mobile web app, so working on mostly focusing on iPhone, Android. We're testing out on some of the Palm stuff, basically making a cool like offline HTML web application. So if you're interested in making an application for mobile and hopefully this can convince you that you can do it with a web app, or if you're interested in doing a web app, this should be a cool resource to see some of the tools you can use. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm excited about it. I'm not sure what's coming up after that, but I think what's really cool about the master classes is they sort of present it in a project where, you know, our tutorial videos, we definitely give you a lot of cool, you know, sort of tutorial documentation knowledge, but the master classes give us enough time to really create a project and take you through the workflow of, you know, making the planning decisions, to testing out an early version, to refining and, you know, expanding your requirements as you go. So really excited about the master classes.
And then actually after Jim's HTML5 masterclass, I'm going to be doing a masterclass on responsive web design. So that'll be coming up as well.
Awesome.
So you guys seem to be part of an elite group of web experts. How did you get to that point? Well,
Oh, cool, we're in a group now.
I wasn't aware.
Thank you for telling us we've crossed the line.
I think like we were saying before, the best way to promote yourself as a web designer or a web developer is to share your knowledge, just like we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Because when you teach stuff